Hello folks, this is Founder Leroon with Fantasy Grounds College. Going to be checking out some tiles and making some maps with it in the Pathfinder 2e rule set. This will be basically the same as I had done before in the 5th edition rule set, but I'm going to give it a shot in Pathfinder 2e. I haven't worked in here very much, so it should be the same. There shouldn't be a whole lot of difference because I'm not really accessing the rule set so much. But I am looking at the assets that you can get from Smiteworks, and you can also import your own if you're so inclined. So the first thing I'm going to do is I selected a map pack from some of the other different packs that are available. You can get these packs as part of a subscription on the Fantasy Grounds store, or if you have to, you could buy your own PNG files and import those, so that you'll be able to work on your own maps and not have to rely on anything else. Doing it this way allows for me to explore the purchases I've made. It lets me explore another rule set. And in this month, currently, this is the month of June, so we are focusing in on Pathfinder 2. So I was just going to do a regular video where I was just going to, basically show the same old 5th edition stuff I usually do. But I figured, this isn't any different, so this can really be a way for me to kind of kill two birds with one stone. So I'm going to go ahead and start. So the first thing I did was I loaded the rule set just in case, so I had some images to work with. Didn't really need to do that, but I did it just in case. I have a character on the combat tracker just in case I need to check that when I'm working on this. And I'm going to put a little bit of line of sight and some effects and such on it. And right now I got a map set. This is the Fantasy Grounds Underground 2 map pack. So this comes from the Fantasy Grounds store as part of the subscription. So I just wanted to let you know that. So these are things that they give you for the actual pack. So it's pretty cool. So you got backgrounds, brushes, decorations, effects, and walls. So I think I'm going to start with background. So I'm going to double click here, which is on a bag. And so I'm in the assets tile, just so you know, down on the bottom right, there's an assets button here. And it looks like there's a floor here, and then there looks like a map that may have been partially drawn with using the rule set, or using the map pack. So if I look at this, see, and I stretch this out. Yeah, so this is an example of the type of thing you can do with this particular map pack. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to go back to the pack itself and take a look at the brushes that they give us. So it looks like we have rocks, stone, we have cave walls, we have a shadow brush, a step down brush, and a step up brush. So that must be the contours and such. And then I'm going to go over to decorations, and let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, so all kinds of cool looking little stalagmites and mushrooms and such, or roots, whatever you want to call these. And don't forget you have this arrow key for the next page. So you're not just relegated to one page. You probably have 2 or 3 pages. So if you click this arrow on the right, you're going to come across other content potentially. The asset screen is only set up to display so many things at a time. So remember about this key here. It'll be important when you're using the assets that you don't lose out on some of the content that you've purchased. So this is just kind of a look real quick to see what we got to work with. So that was the backgrounds, brushes, decorations. These are effects. So it looks like we have an underground effect with rocks, more rocks, and looks like just like ways to texture things and such, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to go back to the pack, and I'm going to go to walls and see what we got for that. Oh yeah, so there's stone filler, there's a circular wall, there's an underground wall. So you can paint with these, or you can do whatever you want. So that's pretty cool. So I'll check that out. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to go into the next area. So I'm going to look for some tiles, because that's the main thing here. So I'm going to look for tiles. So if you have a lot of content in Fantasy Grounds, it'll take it a few minutes to pull the tiles up, but once you're there, I mean, there's all kinds of cool stuff. So there's a cemetery, These I actually bought on the store. I don't think they're part of the subscription pack, but they're available. And the subscription packs also have tiles in them. But I want something a little bit more actually tile-based as opposed to assets. So here's a dark crypt. Okay, so this is a map pack that's dark crypt tiles. So we'll go with that. We'll theme it as a dark crypt. And as you can see, there's all these bends and corners and intersections. And if you hit the arrow, there are probably, yeah, here's some flatter tiles that you can use. So I'm going to start with something like that. And I like the kind of the greenish blue glow that it has. So we're going to start with that. So this is a 6x6 tile. There's a 6x6 open tile. There's an intersection. There's a, looks like an open circle. So we'll have to take a look at this. So first thing I want to do, whenever I make content in Fantasy Grounds, I generally try to take and build something off of what's already here, or you'll have a module that already has stuff. You might want to add a few things to it. But this is just a quick way to do something. I wouldn't say quick, but it's not bad. I mean, you can spend maybe an hour before your game or during the week and put this together. It shouldn't take too long. You want to remember that maps generally are too big in Fantasy Grounds, so it's nice to have little situational rooms so you don't have to fill up your whole screen with this map and you can actually zoom in and see what's going on. That's one of the things I notice in Fantasy Grounds that a lot of people get hung up on is they'll have this big map with 50 rooms in it. You really only need like a room or two, and that's where your battle's going to take place. If they go off the map, you can always do Theater of the Mind, or you can use an image or something to kind of illustrate what's going on. So in this case, I'm going to use the tiles. So the first thing I do is I come over here to Images, and I'm not really going to just click, Start. I'm going to actually make a group first. So up on top, it says Group All. You click on that, there's a drop-down menu. I'm going to click on the green plus button, which is Add Category. And it usually calls itself Group 1, which is fine. I'll put that. I'll use that. And then you edit it. And I'm going to just say Map Tile Practice or something like that. So that way I know what stuff is in this group and I don't get all confused with everything else. So Map Tile Practice is going to be the... All right, what else do we have here? So, map tile practice. There we go. And then I'm going to unclick it, and that will give me my group. So now I'm going to work in here. And when I say here, this is the group I'm working, is the map tile practice. Now I'm going to just click on the add item. So it's a blank map. And I'm going to stretch it out so I have some room to work with. That's another important thing, is to size the window where you want it. There we go. And now the next thing is, you could have a background image that you build on, but usually I'll start with a grid. This particular centerpiece is a 6x6 tile. So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop it on here, and then we'll set the grid accordingly. So I'll just set this down here. And as you can see, it's got a treasure chest looking thing or a barrel, and it's got some other weird stuff in here. And then what I'm going to do is activate the grid and turn on the visibility. And you can see it's a little off, which isn't bad. So I'm just going to nudge this up to the top here, and that should center it pretty nicely. Yep, just like that. So if I scroll in, I can nudge it over to the right a little bit. There we go. And then maybe just a little teeny bit up, just a hair. There we go. So there's a smaller buttons and larger buttons for more incremental work. So that should do it. You look on the edge of the map, it should line up with the edges pretty well. So I think I need to go to the left a little bit more now that I'm looking at, or to the right a touch. I'm going to use the little incremental movement, and this is moving the actual grid, not the map. So once you have this lined up, you want to make sure that you lock the layer. So that looks really good. It's all set now. Now the top and bottom, I'm going to check that. Yep. I'm going to come down just a hair. There we go. And I'll go down to the bottom and see where we're at there. Yeah, so it's a lot more centered. Okay, so once you have that piece centered, that's kind of your blueprint there, which you're going to build off of. So I want to go ahead and lock that layer. There's a little lock symbol on the right. So this is the centerpiece. This is my starting point. So what I'm going to do now is start looking at some of these other tiles and see if I want to use them. I think there's a couple other things I want to grab that's more of an open thing. But when you work with tiles, you want to go to the Layers tool, which is up here on the top. And you're going to drag the tiles, drag and drop them into this little box that says Tile. I'm going to take this tile over here, one of these, and drag and drop it into this box. So now what you have is a tile selected. Now the instinct is to just start clicking everywhere, but if you want to rotate it or color it differently, you want to try to do that now if you can. The other thing is when you're picking a tile, you double click on it and preview what you're getting before you add it to the tile section. That's kind of important. So this one actually has a 2-minute. That's what I'm using right now. So it looks pretty cool. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the map. I want to rotate it though. I don't want them straight up and down. I want them to horizontal. So I'm going to rotate this clockwise, and you can do it at 45 degrees as well. So now these should be facing to the right, or at least going horizontal instead of vertical. And when I click on this tile tool, I'm going to click on the center here, which is this vertice, and it should line up pretty well, and it did. So once you have the grid set, and if you're working with the same tiles, it should line up fairly well. Shouldn't have a lot of trouble with it. If you do, then there's probably some kind of scaling issue, or you got mismatched tiles or something. So that's usually what causes that. And then if I wanted to use this same tile over again, you potentially could. But I wanted to warn you that once you place a tile, you probably want to lock it. And then as you build, like this is going to be the floor. So I want to add a folder, and I want to call this floor tiles. And the reason I'm doing that is for organizational purposes and to keep all the layers together. So there's not a big long list of things here. I want to keep that clean as I can, because that'll help a lot when I'm working with these tiles. The other thing is, once you've placed a tile and you have it locked, you can't move it. And you see I was in tile mode just there, and I clicked and it dropped a whole bunch of tiles, and that's because I was not in the select tool. So you need to be in the selection tool when you want to move things or you want to select things. So now I'm going to select this piece here, which is one of this tile up here, which is not, this isn't something I want to keep now. So I deleted it, and this other unlocked one. So all I did was select it, and then I hit the delete key. That's all I had to do. Now, if you already have an existing tile in place, you want to be in selection mode. This is where people go wrong. They're trying to click in the stamp mode, which will put more tiles down. So you want to make sure that you are in the selection layer, not in some other drawing tool or whatever. And then also in the layers tab on the right, you want to make sure you have the correct layer selected. So this layer has to do with this tile, and this one has to do with this tile on the left. So if I want to turn this tile, I need to first unlock it, and all I want to do is rotate it 90 degrees to the right like I did with this one. And then at this point, once it's selected and you have it unlocked, you can rotate it. And now that it's in the position that I want, I'll lock it again and collapse that. So I'm going to go ahead and add a couple more tiles. So it's the same process. I'm in the layers mode. I'm going to come over and grab something a little different, maybe a pit or something like that. And if you mouse over on your assets, it'll give you the file name. And if they're aptly named correctly, This one says crypt dark open circle 6x6 tile. So that's 6 squares by 6 squares. So it'll match these two that are here already. So I'm going to grab this and drop it into the tile area. And now it's in stamp mode by default. So at this point, I can rotate it, I can resize it, whatever. That's what you want to do in the beginning. And I'm going to go ahead and do a 90-degree on it because I want to make sure that it's going to kind of line up with these a little bit better, just in case the contour or anything is kind of off a little bit. And then I want to go ahead and click somewhere. So I'm going to click it up here on the top left, or maybe I'll click it in the center to kind of make it off-centered. All right, there we go. So there is our centerpiece, and this is like a pit or something like that. Maybe the undead live there, because this is kind of like a underground crypt-like thing. So yeah, that could be either a pit or a trap or whatever you want it to be. So at this point, once I have that in there, now I want to lock that. And as you can see, it's putting all these things in this area because it wants to, take on what I've done here. And if you don't want to work in there, you would click out, you close this, and you just click outside, and it won't select any layer. But when you open this up and you select a layer, it's kind of highlighted. That's how you can tell what you're working with. So they've got these little red dots right now. And the reason they're locked is because the folder itself is locked. So if I unlock this folder and I start selecting these tiles, and if I unlock these, they will also be unlocked. So this open crypt has some line of sight on it. So whoever created this pack, you got this little highlighted use walls area on here. So I'm going to flip over to line of sight. And the only thing they did here was they put like a wall here. I don't know if I would do that necessarily. Maybe I want this to be a pit. So you'd have to edit this. So you can change this to a pit, the experimental pit if you want, or you can remove it entirely and do something else. So I'll just leave it for now, but I just wanted you to be aware of that. So if you see anything over to the right, like the walls or the lighting, that means it's already been applied. So that is basically working with tiles. I'm going to do a couple more, and I want some tiles that are 3x3 or 3x6 is basically what I want. So I'm going to go back to the tile layer mode, and I'm back into the floor tiles. So this way, when I place them, they'll go in this folder, hopefully. All right, so let's look for some 3x3. So I'm using the arrow key to navigate through the assets. So these are 6x6 still. There's a bunch of those. There's a 6x2. 6x4. We're getting there. Yeah, I'm going to go to the beginning. Okay, so there's some end caps here, 4x2. Not quite what I want, but I'll go ahead and go for it. So these are going to be extensions off of this main tomb here. So I want to take these and use them, but I need to put them in the stamp tool area first. And what I'm going to do is branch them off the sides here. So I'm going to take one of these, drag and drop it to the tile area. And this is a 5x4. Does that sound right? No. Now it seems like it's not scaled. So if that's 4x2 is what I thought. So let me change that. Now when I stamp it, it should work. Let's see, 4x2. Yeah, we'll just see what it looks like. I'm not going to worry about it too much. So I'm going to stamp it off to the side a little bit, see what we get. And it looks right. Yep. I think it's off a little bit because of the walls. I think that's what's going on here. But I'm going to go ahead and move this. So to move this tile, don't click on the map area again. Click on the selection tool. Click anywhere on the image and hold your mouse button down and drag this where you want it to go. So in this case, I want to zoom in so I can see what the heck I'm doing. And it looks to me like I need to scale it a little bit more because it is off. So when that happens, you have to be on this, you have to select the tile. And I'm going to go, this one was 4:2. So I'm going to unsnap the aspect ratio. And I selected 2. And now this is what it looks like as 4:2. Let's see what happens. So I have this same layer selected. And now when you put it in there, it still doesn't look quite right. And that is because the thickness of the wall. So when you have this kind of issue here, the wall thickness will play a big difference in what you're doing. So let's try, let's see. So 4:2 is what it's labeled as. So it's 2 wide by 4 deep. But it doesn't look too wide to me. It looks weird, like distorted, but that's because of the wall thickness. So the wall thickness, if it was on the outside, it would look a little different, but that's okay. So let's just say you want to reuse this tile and you don't want to put another one down. So what you're going to do is come down to the bottom, make sure that you have this selected first. And then there's a duplicate layer. So I'm going to duplicate this layer and I'm going to move it. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is rotate it. So you got to make sure that that layer is selected. And then I'm going to rotate it. So it should fit there now. So there we go. So that is basically how you can rotate those. And that's the big thing I want to point out is you need to select the tile in the layers area. And you want to be in the selection tool. If you're over here in stamp mode, you're just going to automatically stamp up all kinds of things here. So you got to get used to switching back and forth between the tool. That's the main lesson here, I guess, is to do something like that. Hey, Tasman, what's going on? Been a while. Yeah, good to see you, man. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at placing a couple more tiles to kind of tidy this up. I don't want to make this map too complicated or too big. And that's generally what we do as creators is we want everything perfect. So we're trying to make everything work, but it doesn't always have to be that way. And actually, once I get the walls on here and such, it's going to be a pretty good sized dungeon. I mean, as far as Fantasy Grounds goes. So I'm going to go back to the pack and I'm going to look for the decorations. And as you can see, there's a thumbnail. This is the Dark Crypt, so it's kind of a 3D based graphic. You can get it on the store. I don't think it's part of the subscription, but you can get it. So, okay, so now you have an ability to draw the walls. So there's a 2x6 floor tile. There's a 1x6 wall section, which is cool. And then there's another kind of a darker gray one, and you got shadow on either side. So you want to pick the one that's going to look correctly with shadow on there. So we're going to place one of these, and then we'll see what it looks like. So you can either use this as a tile and stamp it, or you can try to use it as a brush. So it's up to you. So I'm going to try to brush it. I haven't done that in a while. So I'm going to go to the brush mode, which is your paint mode. Right now there's a black dot that's selected, which is just a color. And instead of using this brush color, I'm going to use this asset here. And it's set for 1x6, which is cool. And if you do this, it's a little quicker than placing the tiles, but you can basically go in here and brush this on top of anything you want. It looks to me like it fits right here pretty nicely. So you could take this and draw it any way you like. I'm actually going to delete that layer, but as you can see, you can take these and you can brush with them. These are a little bit big for brushes, I think, or you'd have to use a lot bigger map. So I'm not going to use these in this particular thing, but this would be what you would want to use if you're going to construct one with the ground already on the laid out. In this case, I can just use these as asset tiles and not just brushes. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this layer. So when I say this layer, this is the paint layer that I'm working with. And at the very bottom is a garbage can. So once I do that, it's gone. So I'm going to switch back to tile mode now that I know what those are. And I'm going to select one of these walls as a tile. So I'm going to drag and drop it. 1x6, looks right. And I'm going to click over here, and I'm in stamp mode. And it's also in the same layer as the rest of the stuff. So let's take a look, see what happens. Yep, it's perfect. Now all I have to do is click the selection layer tool and move it. And there it is, just like that. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I don't have to draw another one. I can actually make two copies. So this is a wall. If I want to use the same wall, I will just make another layer, and I have the wall selected. So duplicate selected layers, and then it made another layer here. It just copied that one, and I'm going to drag it over to the right, and then I'm going to flip it. So you have a flip thing for horizontal and vertical. So that saved me a lot of work from having to actually move it too much. So that's how you flip images or do a mirror image type thing. And then I'm going to do the bottom wall. So what I would do with that is I would take the other tile, or maybe something a little different, or however you want to do it. And I'm going to go ahead and drag this over, and I'll make just one big long tile here, but it'll be actually two pieces. So let me lock this one first. So I have some unlocked layers that I want to lock, because I don't want them moving on me while I'm trying to work. And that's another thing, is when you're in selection mode and you don't have your tiles locked, it's going to pick up the wrong tile and move it. It's going to drive you nuts. So make sure you lock things and that you're selecting things and drawing things. You got to switch between those. You can't just click anywhere and make the map. You really have to focus on what tool you're in and what exactly you're doing. So the next step is this bottom half. I'm going to make this wall down here. When I say this wall, this bottom half, and I'm going to take one of these tiles, and I'm going to drag and drop it up here, but I'm going to rotate it. So it's much easier to rotate it now. So I'm going to rotate it to where this black part faces inward, which is the shadow. So I'm going to rotate it to the left and to the left again. And now I'm going to click here on the corner, see where we're at. Okay, that's fine. And I'll click over here. That is fine. So now I'm going to go to the selection tool and move it. Like that. And like that. And now I'm going to click up here. And I still have that tile handy. So click up here. And it's backwards, so I can actually flip it vertically. Okay, maybe not. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is manually flip it, but I have to make sure I have the wall. Oops. See, I was in the tile mode. Okay, so I want to make sure I have this tile selected. Okay, now that's selected. Now I want to rotate it. So I want to make sure. Oops. I did it again. I need to go back to selection mode, select the layer, and then move it. See, that's where you go, where it can go wrong. And now I just butted it up against there. And then I can do that again with these other tiles. So I just replaced that tile with the other. And as you can see, there's this thing here. See, now this is too short, or it's not to the right scale. You can do this, but it looks really distorted. Which is this, I just held down the control key. So that's not the answer. So you got to find a tile that'll work, or some kind of structure with a wall around it. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that layer. That's not going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and click the garbage can after I have this selected. Okay. So nonetheless, you're going to find pieces that may not fit. So you have decorations. Maybe I can find something in here. Yeah, these are passages. There's a staircase. Yeah, maybe I'll put a staircase in here. So the staircase is 3 by 2. So it's 3 wide by 2 wide. So that'll take up, yeah, so I'll put a staircase on either side. That'll be interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a staircase and place it on the map, but I want to put it in the tile area first. And it looks like that's going down. So I want it to look like it's kind of ascending, not descending. So maybe this will go on the right-hand side. So I don't have to even flip this one. So I'm going to go ahead and click over here and see where it ends up. Yep. And then go to selection mode. And take the staircase and move it there. Now, if you want to use it again, you can, or you can just stamp again, but you can see the stamp's gone now. So I want to duplicate this layer. And now they're both side by side, or, kitty corner. Now I want to flip this one around. There we go. So you can play around with tiles like this. The main thing is to remember is to make sure that you are selected on the layer and the right tool. So right now I'm in the selection tool. And now that I have those placed, I want to lock those so I don't move them accidentally when I'm playing around with the other tiles. So we kind of have a little bit of a dungeon going on here. Let's see if I can find some kind of walls. I think I'm going to scale them differently so they will fit. So what you would do in that case, even though it might be off a little bit, because what you'll see here is we'll have this thicker wall up here. Who cares? It's not mission critical. So I'm going to go back to the tile set and go back to the brushes. And this is where the walls were. So I'm going to go ahead and grab one of these. Right now it's 6 by 1. So I want to scale it to 6 by 1 is okay, but I need smaller pieces to fill in these gaps. So thinking I'm going to go with, see what it looks like. So this one doesn't really need a wall. I just need a little piece right here. So let me try that. So I'll go with That may not be what I want. Let's see. See, it's the right size. There we go. So you just put it underneath the layer, and that'll take care of that piece. Now I need to go back to that. Not that one. That one. See, right now it's riding on top of the staircase. So if I want to, I can put it down a level. So if that's the case, then I put it underneath the stairs. So that way it looks like the stairs are kind of going up and over the wall. And there's still a little bit of a missing piece there, but I wanted to show you that. If you wanted to tighten this up and not have to fuss with it, you can actually flip this around if you want to. So if oops, I got to make sure it's selected. Yep. Okay, selection mode. And now I want to select this piece. And I flipped it around. So now you can use the edge of the wall instead of the inside. So that kind of works. And now I'm going to switch over to this piece. So I want to go to that. Bring that down like I did with the other one so it goes underneath. There we go. So it gives you the illusion that you've used that wall. And you can also flip it, but then you have that corner missing. So you got to have corner pieces would help. And also like here, it'd be nice to have a little stub that you can use. So technically you could do something like that with the existing tile. So you can go like that and just call it 1 by 1. Yeah, it's going to look distorted, but they don't look too bad as corner pieces. What do you know? See, I misclicked. There we go. And now I can make a duplicate. I'm in selection mode. Now I'm going to click down in these squares. Oops. I see I don't have the tile anymore. So what I'm going to do is duplicate it a couple times. There we go. So this is selected now. I'm going to hit it a couple times, like 1, 2, 4 times. So I've duplicated it 4 times. Go to selection mode. So that don't look too bad for just kind of messing around. So I've never worked with this tile set, so bear with me on that. And this one looks a little weird because of the shadowing. So then you have all these other brushes that I've dealt with. So anyways, that's basically how you would lay your tiles out if you want. And now the next thing is let's do some like line of sight and that sort of thing. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is take and start adding some of the line of sight. So this is something you have to master. So after you get all this done, make sure that you lock all the layers and that you lock up the folder that they're in. And also, I'm going to drag these other pieces in here. Yeah. Okay. So everything is in the floor tiles. This is the one I wanted to rotate. So let me do that. So unlock those. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. So everything's locked so far. Okay. So that should do that. Now you can see it looks like there's a little crack here. I'm not too worried about it. All right. So I'm going to do line of sight now. So now if you have your map placed and you got it organized, all those textures and stuff are in this floor folder. So what happens here is if you make this piece one section of your module, you can actually have other pieces out here, or at least have an idea where the connectors are and link the maps together this way. And you can move this around. So if you wanted to do a larger map, you can do this in pieces and rotate them. So if I select this is now an entire layer. And if I'm in the selection tool and I unlock it, see how you can do that? So what you want to do is make sure that all these pieces are locked so that they move with the entire photo or picture. All of these little tidbits here, they need to be locked. Okay? Now when I rotate it, it should go with it. So I didn't lock one of the layers, so there's something that's not locked here. What is it? I don't know. So there's something in here that's not agreeing with what I've done here. I'll just leave it like this. But if you do it right and you actually layer these correctly, they will rotate as one big piece. I just have something is off here and I don't know which one it is. But anyway, so that's, you lock that layer when you're done with it. All right, so line of sight. So normally you do the doors and such first, so I'm just going to pretend there's a door here. And on this side. So what I want to, or maybe I can just do it down in here too. So it's kind of up to you, but it's nice if you have an asset that's actually a door. I think I'm going to put some kind of door in here just to show this. So when you do doorways, you want to do those first if you can help it. So I'm going to go to the line of sight tool. And as you can see, the line of sight is already built into these structures here. So what I'm going to do is basically follow this lead here and go around the edges and trace these lines basically. Up here, I can do a one big square. Yeah, I'll try that. So I'm going to go ahead and go to line mode. So right now I'm in selection mode. So I want to go to the line mode. I'm in the wall tool. I'm going to go ahead and change it to rectangle. And I'm going to start from this corner and draw out to the center. And I don't care if it's exactly perfect. So, okay. The rectangle tool. Like so. And then I'm going to do the outer one as well. So you can do that with lines if you want. And what I'm going to do is connect these together when I'm done. So I'm going to do one more connection here. And you see I'd have to remove this because this is going to block the opening. So this can get kind of annoying or complex when you start doing that. So if you ever draw a line and you need to get rid of it, so let's say you didn't want that to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on one of the nodes in this rectangle. So I'll pick this bottom left corner. You go to selection mode and you double click and then you hit the delete key. So that can be deleted. If you wanted to get rid of these extra lines, you can go to line mode and draw a line through these. And now you have this little piece here. So you just go to selection mode. You left click and drag and select these points. Make sure I got it right. Yeah. So if you have extra lines that you need to get rid of, that's how you do it. So here I'm going to take this line tool and just click and click on the other side of this. Hit escape. And then you want to make sure you're in the highlight selection tool. And you're going to grab both of those links. And then I don't see that it made that third link. Well, we'll see what happens. So I'm going to drag. Okay, now it's there. So now I'm going to go to the selection mode. It's acting kind of funny. All right, let me see what happens. Yeah, it didn't actually draw on this line. Let me try it again. Yeah, I think it's because it's on a different layer. That's what's going on. So you have to, your line of sight should be on the same layer. And that's what's happening here, is that one of these tiles actually have their own layer. So that's why this is not working right. So you got to be careful with layers and such. So there, I just got rid of that. So when you're working with these lines, you kind of have to be careful with it. Okay, so I'll just manually draw in the lines now. So go to the line mode, click on the node here. So there's the outer wall. Now for the inner wall. You hit escape or you double click once you're done with this map. And if you look here closely, there's this little tail. That's what you want because you know they're intersected. So you just click on the little tail, and then you, of course, you have to be in select mode, and then just click the little minus button, and that gets rid of that tail. You can see that these didn't connect, so I'm going to connect them now. So you can make fine adjustments after the fact. If you try doing it all at once, it's going to take forever. So that wall is pretty much done deal. Okay. So now we have that and that. Okay, so we're good to go there pretty much. So once you get all the line of sight done, then you're going to go back and you're going to pick out zones where you're going to put your lighting if you're going to have any. Also, if you want to do some effects. So the order of business really is to lay out your tiles, get your map done, or import a map. Then check to see if it has line of sight, or add the line of sight and the doors and anything else you want to add. So this structure here, I may not want this wrapped around this thing. I might want this to be a pit, but this could also be a big pillar like in the middle so it blocks light. So it's up to you what you really want to add in here. But I'm just going to add a couple doors, even though it doesn't physically show a door. Maybe what I'll do is make these illusionary walls. So I'm going to take this illusionary wall, which is basically like a curtain, and draw that in here. I got to go into rectangle mode. So that's like a curtain. And in order for this to work correctly, you have to add the line of sight around there. Otherwise, it's going to look weird. So you want to draw your line of sight to line up with this. So I will draw one of these sides here. So I'm going to go to the line mode, go back to the wall. So basically, try to do everything in one tool at a time. So like I'm starting to jump around. That's because I didn't plan it. And also because I'm getting familiar with the tile set. And I don't know which tiles have line of sight on them or not until I put them in this queue. And then I go, oh, okay, well, these already have line of sight. So, you know, it can get a little bit tricky. So take your time and learn what you have before you start using them. That helps a lot. That way you're not jumping around as much like I am. See now, systematically coming through here and plugging in those wall values. They don't have to be perfectly on the edge. They can be in a little bit. Right now I'm just kind of clicking through here. And what you're going to find is that it's better to have it like this. Because when you go to delete this line, it'll clean it up. So if I go into line mode, and you're trying to get rid of this intersecting line. So if I go to the line mode and I put in the wall, so this is how you get rid of this red line. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight. I got to be in selection mode. So the line's gone. So now I just have to stretch this over to where it belongs. And I have the line or this little dot selected, so you can remove that point. So you got to also learn how to get out of situations. So that was kind of a roundabout way of doing it. That's not the way you want to start off, but nonetheless, it's good to be able to show you that you can get out of things like that. So I'm going to finish the line of sight. So I'm in the wall tool, line tool. All right, and as you can see, I overdrew that a little bit. And that helps you so you can select these and get rid of them easier. So I'm going to go zoom in a little and go to selection tool. I don't think I made it quite as long as I should have. There we go. Now I can see the node. It was in this white part, so I couldn't even see where to select it. Now I'm going to go ahead. It's in select mode. It's red now. I'll go ahead and delete it. So that gets rid of the excess, the little tail. So you can fix those and make sure you turn the snap to grid on and off. Okay. Okay, so we're recentered, put in some of the line of sight walls so that we can actually see what it does. So now that you kind of have everything lined out, we're going to take and this doesn't look right. So you don't want these little cracks and such in here. That'll help a little. And the reason they didn't connect is because the line of sight for these doors is on a different level. So you got to be careful with that. So this line of sight is not on the same level as the line of sight on that was already part of the tiles. So that's where things get a little confusing. All right, so let's go to play mode. Let's turn on the enable, disable line of sight. Throw a character down there. Oh, duh. I was trying to grab it from the character selection window. Okay, there we go. And now, let's see. So go back to the map tool, unlock it. We got there's the player view. They can't see anything. They're blind as a bat. So we're going to assign this person a candle. So if you go up into the options up here, into the running man, the effects, Here are some presets here. You can drag and drop these to the combat tracker. So this guy or this person, this woman has a candle. And if I go back to the character preview, that's all she sees down there. And this little fog of war thing that's going on is kind of like her perceived memory of what she saw before. So once she's revealed it, kind of gives her a little bit of a preview of what's already there. Interesting. Now to continue working, I'm going to turn off the player preview. And if you're going to add anything like lighting to the map itself, so let's say there's a purple glow coming out of this pit, we'll say, or this is a pillar actually. But let's let me think here. Oh yeah, let's put a torch or something over here. So what I'm going to do is grab the lighting tool, and I'm going to select the add light, and then I'm going to go ahead and pick a preset. So we're going to call it a torch, and you will click wherever you want it. So I'm going to have it up here on this wall, and that is torchlight now. So now what I'm going to do is go back to play mode. See, that light isn't even on over there. So I'm going to go back to the lights, go back to the add the lighting, and go to the selection tool, select the light, make sure it's on, and nope. So back to yellow, lock that, lock this, and the preset on this was a torch. That should be on. Yeah, it must be on a lower layer, so that could be part of it. But nonetheless, your token view is controlled by the player. There's a candle or something there, but it's not on. So let me go back to lighting, back to here, the selection tool, and back to the light tool. I'm going to add another torch. There we go. So for some reason I didn't have the right layer selected. I don't know. But the light was turned off. So there's two lights. That's what happened. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this one that's not doing anything. Okay. So now I have that. There we go. So now we do have a torch light. There we go. Lock the layer. And I'd probably put all the light layers on one go around here. Yeah, so this one's locked. So to delete it, you have to be in the light mode. Okay. So go back to play mode, and here's your token. So you can see a little bit of the light up ahead from the torch, but it's blocked by this pillar, so that's why I put it there. Now, if you get stuck in a wall, just hit Shift and drag, and that'll get you out. So the new command is Shift and drag. So I think that's basically what you need to know. And then if you want to do ambient lighting, which is the dungeon lighting itself, you go into the ambient lighting, and then right now it looks like it's off. So if you put it on, that's what it's going to look like, because it's probably daylight outside. So if you want to shield this area from that, you're going to put in a mask, and then you're going to cover. So in this case, hide area. So you'd hide all this from the sunlight. Hide all that. That way you're not looking at any outside light influencing in here. So you go back to play mode. Your torch is still active and you don't have all that ambient light. So let's go to effects. So in this effects area, I'm going to add a little bit of mist. And that's quite a bit of mist actually. But it's not outside, it's still under the mask, which is nice. So I'm going to blur it a little so it blends, and I'm going to turn the speed down. And then I'm going to turn the amount down so you can see. So now you have this slow moving mist going through the dungeon. Maybe it comes out of a hole somewhere, who knows. But nonetheless, that's just basically how it looks. And then when you want to run the game, you're going to take and turn off the player view. And then when you want to see what they're looking at, you hit Control P. And that gives you a preview of what they see. But as the game master, you're going to have to look at this most of the time like this. So you won't know what shadows are seeing or not until you hit Control P. And that's you have to hold those down. They're not permanent. If you want it permanent, you have to enable player view vision permanently. And then you can't see some of the map. So you have to play around between those different modes to get to what you need. So that should be it. So once you have that done, you should probably label it. So if I unlock it, the underground crypt, and I'll just call this crypt on the player side, and I will unidentify it. So when I share the map, it just says crypt. That's in case it says like undead boss lair. You don't want to share that. So that's, you just call it crypt. But this might say something like map, comma, underground crypt boss level or something. And you don't want to share that with the party, even if the map is not intended for that. You want to use this over here, and it'll just say crypt. This will be your description on the left. Over on the right is where the players will see that if you hide it. If you don't, they're going to see the whole thing. So now you lock the map, and then the next thing is you would position it to where you're going to have it before you play. So I'd probably stick it right about in here. And when I get ready to play, that's basically where the map's going to come up. Might be a little wide actually, so I might shrink that a little. There we go. And then to zoom to the extents, there's a zoom to fit. So that's where that would go. And then double click on his character sheet and probably put the character sheet right here so that you can look at it. And it's right off to the left of the combat tracker. And all your stuff will be here. And you don't have to move it around as much. So as a player, this is pretty much how you'd want to look at your sheet and how you'd be playing, basically. Set up for play. That's basically how this works. So get the map set up after your players are all set. Probably do a lot of this on your own time when you're not playing. And then get used to the map tools. Just practice with them. That's what I'm doing. And you'll get used to it, and you'll know what not to do. And before you know it, you'll be a pro. So take your time and relax. get to know the functionalities. It's not something you want to do right before a game. So if you already have maps prepared, that's a little easier. You're not having to draw everything. So it adds another layer of complexity, though, when you start using tiles that already have line of sight. It's almost it's a trade-off, what you want to do and compared to which time you have. So anyways, I hope that helps a little bit. This is the Pathfinder 2 rule set. I just themed it this way because this month is Pathfinder 2 month. So if you're not already part of Fantasy Grounds College, in the description of the text for the video, there will be a link there. You can also look for us online, Fantasy Grounds College Discord. You'll find us. We just do this voluntary. It's for people that are struggling with the tool or that want to learn more. We offer free classes. We do have a Patreon, but we don't normally push that on people. And then we also have a lot of other rule sets and things that people are into. So this month is Pathfinder 2 focus for Paizo. But from here on out, this rest of the month, we're going to be having classes like GM classes. There's some one-shots coming up, and also some character creation, those sort of things. So we might even be able to get Trenlo or someone like that, one of the developers, to come on and do a symposium with us at the end of the month. We'll see how it goes. But take care, everybody. Happy gaming, and I'll see you guys around. Bye-bye.